Cookies are there to make it even better.
No, dove in.
Only Judy's. And only Judy's cookies.
I didn't know if you saw my email. I forwarded it to you. I mean, it just doesn't say much.
Yeah, it doesn't, just say, I think we just have to.
Oh, the clock's on time.
Yeah, okay.
Did you have to replace it?
This is the one from the office.
Oh,
But Judy ordered one already, so it's not there.
not a cuckoo clock.
No.
The room's already at capacity.
I was waiting for that. Okay, let's call this meeting to order, December 19th, 2013. Call to order, please.
Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Harvey.
Here.
Director Slater-Carter.
Present.
Director Wilson.
Here.
Director Huber.
Here.
Good. President's statement. Well, we get to welcome 2 new board members. And this is very exciting. I look forward to working with you guys. We've got some interesting projects that we're already working on, and it's always a surprise as to what's presented to us through circumstances and the desires of the district. So I look forward to your ideas and your hard work. Oral comments. For oral comments for items other than those on the agenda. Lou?
No.
Oral comment? None. Okay. Public hearing, we have no public hearing. Consent agenda, we have no consent agenda. Old business, review and possible action concerning public works plan certification.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we've been reporting that the Coastal Commission was going to have a hearing on December 11 to consider the Public Works Plan amendment. And at the meeting, the Coastal Commission adopted and certified the Public Works Plan amendment as it was presented to the Commission. So this is a very significant step for the district. This is very important. This allows the district now to issue new connections, new domestic water connections. So something that we weren't able to do for over 30 years. And the way the Public Works Plan is structured is that such that the first of all, we can connect properties that are currently served by private wells. We can also issue connections to new development, and there we have 2 basic structures: smaller single-family residential units can be served inside the urban-rural boundary. So all new development can now be served. The larger developments have to go through some additional reviews, everything above 200 gallons per minute, and we think that's about a size of a 3-unit home or a medium-sized commercial development. Those go through a separate review at the district. So what we have in front of us is the plan as adopted. There were some pages that from a separate item that made its way.
I was going to ask you about that.
In this, so we just copied the essential North Coast report and some pages from the 18A item made its way in
Which has nothing to do with this district. It's down in south of Murata Surf. So it's a totally irrelevant
So
issue
what we're
here.
looking at is the Public Works Plan W19A, and we're asking the board tonight to adopt a resolution that approves the Public Works Plan amendment. And now, this is important to note that at the last meeting, we actually stated that this needs to be sent back to the Coastal Commission one more time. We spoke out of prior experience in the Public Works Plan certification. There were at the meeting some changes made that required then not only our approval, but then subsequent approval by Coastal Commission, because this language still had to be worked out. So staff was directed to make changes at the meeting, and the plan was then actually approved after it was certified, meaning it went back to the Coastal Commission. Here we have a certified plan in front of us. So if this board approves this plan tonight, as it is, then the district will be able to issue connections immediately.
Good.
The purpose of the resolution is to acknowledge the action of the commission and confirm to the commission that we will implement the plan, the amended plan as presented and modified by the commission.
Good. Okay, any comments?
I have been to many Coastal Commission meetings. I've watched even more on their live stream. And this one, I wasn't able to attend the meeting itself, but I did watch the meeting. And in all of my time observing the Coastal Commission in their meetings, I have never seen an item dispatched with greater speed and delight from the commissioners, who spoke not only to the quality of the work of their staff with our district, but also to the quality of the Public Works Plan itself. And there was a specific request by one of the commissioners that this be used as a model for other similar work that the commission staff will be engaged in, and the executive director chimed in cheerily to note that they are already using this as a model. Many of us have been involved for this entire time, and I was all ready for the cliffhanger business of waiting around for that one last amendment like we had last time, and I was shocked in a very delighted way, and got a chance later that evening to express our thanks to a number of commissioners and a number of members of the commission staff. And they really do have a lot of respect for our staff and our consultants, and appreciated very much the way that we worked, and they agree that we have a very carefully thought out, very detailed plan that everyone hopes anticipates all the kind of things that could gum us up later. So by anticipating them, we've got a lot of this stuff figured out, and they're much more comfortable at this point dealing with something that, in their experience, could have turned out to be concerning, but instead they're actually very excited to get this done, and so are we.
Tim, do you have a comment?
No, I just want to thank the staff and the consultant, the consultants for hard work, and those that went. It's been a long road, and it's a huge accomplishment after 30 years, and it's just going to be a great thing for the district and the people in this community. So I really appreciate all you've done.
Bill, comment?
Yeah, the first one is, what exactly are we being asked to approve here?
The resolution's at the end of the staff report.
Okay, because what I'm
It
seeing.
looks like this.
Okay, so it starts
So the very last 2 pages of this item. So
W19A, right?
After the W19A, it's the last 2 pages before you have a blue separation page for the next item.
Okay,
Just in front
there's
of-
the resolution.
there it is.
okay, so this is, okay.
W19A is the Coastal Commission designation for their staff report.
Okay. Just to ask sometimes maybe stupid questions, what happens if we don't adopt this?
Well, what happens if we don't adopt this, that means that we would essentially go back to start from scratch and would have to pick up the negotiations. well, maybe not from the very beginning, but would have to start a new round of negotiations with the Coastal Commission for, you know, whatever the reason is why we don't want to adopt it. And, well, it would essentially mean a significant time delay in issuing connections. I can't tell you how much it would be, but getting back on the agenda very soon, I wouldn't see that happening.
Do you have specific objections to portions of it?
No, but I wanted to hear what the Clemens thinking was about.
Well, that's a fair question. I think the issue from a legal standpoint is that if you don't adopt it, the Public Works Plan as it's presently in effect would remain in effect. And as is presently stated, or before the certification of the amendment, the moratorium is in effect. Even though the district had repealed the moratorium, the county and the Coastal Commission interpreted their regulations and enactments as requiring the moratorium to remain in effect. So the purpose of this amendment basically is to repeal the certification essentially nullifies the commission and the county's position that the moratorium was still in effect.
Okay. And then, in the process of assuming that it's approved, the language in there, Clemens, what are you most concerned about that is going to be an impediment to us going forward, or is something that down the road would make life difficult for us?
Well, there's nothing that I'm very concerned about. Otherwise, we wouldn't recommend approval here.
Right.
I think the most important thing to note here was that there's a large amount of water reserved for priorities that aren't necessarily we don't expect them to be implemented. County doesn't expect that these priorities be used, priority connections be used. Coastal Commission doesn't expect that. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge going forward is working with County and Coastal Commission to update their local coastal programs to reflect reality when it comes to the priority set-asides.
It's worth pointing out that if in the staff report, commission staff noted that because of the language of the LCP, it has to be reserved. They also noted that, I think they even suggested that it should be revisited at the LCP level. The water's reserved for visitor surveying and agriculture and a few other things. Agriculture is never going to buy potable water for their needs because it costs so very much, and all of the limited agriculture that we have in our area, they all have wells and other supplies that it's just so unlikely they would come to us. They've never come to ask. So that's one of those priorities where, as we talk it through, everybody's like, well, it's in the LCP, so we have to do that. But that's definitely one of those where we can come in and say, what is it, 78,000 gallons a day, something like that, that we have to set aside. We're holding it in reserve for people who, it's like waiting on Godot. It's we may never see that many restaurants and hotels and other visitor serving.
Okay, so specifically, it allocates some money towards some gallonage towards horticulture, I believe it is. Also some towards the affordable housing developments and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay, so that means that there's less gallonage available for non-priority uses.
That's right.
So that if there's a priority use, it basically takes all of that gallonage off the table, even though that there's no chance that that would be used. Like, let's say there'd be a large affordable housing development.
No. Total capacity is around 130,000.
Right.
80,000 of those are now reserved for priority uses, and 50,000 are available for non-priority uses.
Right.
So essentially, priority use cannot take away the non-priority uses. We have the priority uses completely set aside, and we can issue connections until we hit the roof essentially on the non-priority connections, which is quite a high number.
Okay.
And if we wanted more at that point, there's two ways to do it. Of course, we have trigger points built in that require us to essentially take action
At the 90%.
at the 90% level, which could mean development sources or revise the LCP to change the priority set asides and allow for more non-priority connections.
It's priority, which means we have to reserve that water, but it's not preemptive. So it's not like it can come along and the priorities can't take away from the non-priorities.
But once you get past the 47,000 or whatever gallonage is for non-priority usage, then that's where that 90% kicks in, right?
Well, that would be 100%. So before that,
Yeah.
before we reach the end of the connections, we're required to take action, and of course, that's for us the next step. I mean, we don't want to wait until 90%. We're going to start this now.
Right. Okay, so the root of my question is basically this, that there are a number of wells within the district that we would like to have converted or are mandated to be converted onto the system, correct?
Are you talking, what kind of wells are you talking about?
You mean-
Individual residential housing units? Are you talking about other kinds of wells?
Okay, so the wells that, for new construction after whatever it was, where there were deed restrictions that have to go into the system, were people that are currently within the district that are on wells that would like to convert, okay? It's my impression that that is somewhere in the vicinity of 300 wells, more or less.
Well, it's 300 wells in the entire district. What this Public Works Fund amendment allows us to do is connect folks inside the urban rural zoned areas.
Right.
It doesn't allow us to extend facilities outside the urban rural zoned area. So
Right.
it's going to be difficult to serve those folks outside the urban rural zone boundary. We're talking about everything inside.
Right.
Yeah, does that end?
Okay, so the root of the question is that everybody that has a well that's within the urban zone and wanted to convert over to the system,
okay.
do we have the capacity to accommodate them?
Well, so the number of wells inside the urban rural zone boundaries is less than 300.
Okay.
Can't tell you what it is.
Okay.
We would have to get this answer from the county, and we've asked many times, and we don't have the answer.
Okay.
But
And there are two types of wells. When you drive around, you'll see wells on vacant lots that are waiting to be developed.
Right.
When we pass this, any construction on those lots will have to be a part of our system.
right, going forward. So
Going
no new
forward.
wells will go in going forward. The conversion of wells, currently, this board has passed a resolution that requires the connection if a remodel of greater than 50% has been planned for a specific
Right.
house. So that is when we will require the connection. Other connections will be voluntary.
Okay. So the root of the question is that the way that this is set up, we have, priority and non-priority uses.
Yes.
The non-priority uses, do we have enough capacity within that category to accommodate everyone that that could potentially want to be connected to the system?
Hey, yes,
You have surplus.
yes.
Okay. And a large development, can they take a disproportionate share of that water and put other uses at jeopardy?
that depends on this board. We will review every large development individually, and we will have to set priorities how to do that, and we'll come forward with that in very soon.
And we have the flexibility to do that.
We have the flexibility in this public works plan amendment to set those priorities, absolutely, yes.
We have the legal authority to, for larger developments in particular, to require, for want of a better term, a development agreement that would be negotiated with respect to the obligations of the developer to provide water, provide the necessary funding for water, if it's beyond our immediate capability.
And that's all part of the Montara code.
Yes, and the state code within which we operate, but yes, the Montara code covers that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, sort of the next question is, what if a lot of people really wanted to go on this at once, would we be able to process that? Or do you anticipate that being an issue?
Not really, quite frankly. I mean, I tell you that I have a very good feel for what is going on in the community. I was in close contact with a lot of realtors over the last years and have spoken to a lot of potential developers. So I do not anticipate that we have a long line going out the door at all. The other thing is, all our permits depend on building permits from Sanitary County. So that's where that line would start, at Sanitary County.
But what you're saying for the audience is that people cannot get a water connection unless they come in with a building permit
Right.
already. So they have to have gone through the design review stage, they have to have gone through the planning stage, and they have to have gone through the building review stage.
And I think what we've not highlighted tonight here is that this Public Works Plan amendment is conformed with the local coastal program. So we have now these two documents tied together. That means growth is controlled through the 1% growth limit in the local coastal program. And as Mr. Montara at the last meeting explained, the district is essentially getting out of the land use business. And so this is all now in the hands of the planning agencies, and this district will issue water and sewer connections.
And the other point that's in the Public Works Plan that is critical is that if there's an existing home and the well fails in the urban area, they are then a priority use. So they then get calculated. It was one of the things that I got put in the local coastal plan update, was to make failed wells a priority use so that if people were desperate for good, clean water, they wouldn't be held up by anything else.
And the district is not obligated is not obligated to force the conversion of people with wells, well owners, to the system who have signed that bond, so that it's not going to be an automatic process. Isn't that right, Dave? It's up to the board. The district is not obligated to force those conversions from wells to.
That's correct.
Yeah. So.
We may at sometime want to consider a procedure for, or even a prioritization of which wells should be converted first and in order. That's a policy decision that can be made by the board.
Just excuse me, Bill, just a question. What's the definition of a failed well?
It's in the.
No, but I mean just
it's
globally.
in this.
Can I come and say my water has failed, or are some criteria out there for a failed well?
Well, essentially it's up to the county health department, executive director, and the general manager of this district. Those two are making the decision if the well is failed or not.
And it cannot be remediable by anything that is,
But the determination is you and the health department, in so many words, after the application is submitted.
Yes, and it would be first the health department.
The kind of things that the health department has weighed in on, for example, in Half Moon Bay, which considered this a while back, is if the flow is too low, like below half a gallon a minute, or if it's contaminated, especially around here, you can get contaminated with petroleum.
Saltwater intrusion.
Yeah.
But does it really make any difference as long as we have capacity available, that whether they're a priority or non-priority, that they would still be treated in
There-
essence the same way?
There was a time where we were concerned about that, and we really wanted to make sure that they got to the head of the line. And that's when, especially Catherine, put in the energy to get that into the LCD update. Where we are with it right now probably doesn't make a difference, but we're at the beginning of this cycle. So having thought about it a good bit now, it seems better to put them right in the front of the line. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that, but there was a time, not that long ago, where we were actually concerned that we wouldn't be able to help them because of the way the LCD was written.
So it's a short-term proposition, it doesn't really make that much difference. It's a longer-term proposition. Not having that language in there could in essence be a problem.
Right, this is planning ahead.
Okay. I asked this to you before, Clemens, but I also want to ask this just one more time. How do we know for sure that we've got the same language that we thought we had in this document?
Well,
in other words, a document, I guess, goes back and forth many times, and how do you know that the final draft is in essence accurate?
first, two things we had. We had 1, 2, 3 folks at the meeting reading the actual document that were involved with developing it. And then we had a staffer, a SRT staffer actually go through the document.
Okay. So basically, word by word, making sure that the things that were deleted were in fact deleted, the things that were added were in fact added properly.
Yes.
And
I
Catherine and I, as the committee, were also reading through and double checking and asking tons of questions.
And I received, for every little change, I have a paper trail for.
So Bill, you're probably thinking of the board negotiations with the union.
Well, I'm thinking all kinds of contractual things that I've seen where, oops, we forgot to put that in, or my recollection was different than that, so that, the document should stand on its own merits and not have to have any other interpretation of it.
If there was a wild card here, it was that the staff at Coastal Commission has been just really, they've had a lot to do this year, and we didn't get the staff report until about 10 days or so before the hearing. So one of the wild card questions was how many of the things that staff and consultants had worked with them on right up to the last minute actually did they have time to get in. So I think by and large, the committee asked Tanya and Clemens in particular a lot of questions. I don't think that we got every single little change in that we thought we might be able to get in, but there's no such thing as a perfect document on these either. So given the time pressure, given how much change went into this over the past 2 years, there's such a world of difference between this and about 2 years ago that I was pretty much happy with where it was just a few months ago, because we had gotten off of the business of them trying to impose these really weird artificial restrictions because they didn't have the LCP update done. And so they were like, well, if that's not done, we better put it in here. And we were like, no, don't put it in here. This is the wrong place for it. Put it in the county's LCP. It's where it belongs. And they're like, yeah, but that's not done yet.
Okay.
And we're like, that ain't gonna fly, because you try to put that on us and we can't defend it because we're a municipal utility. We're not the planning agency. And they were really gonna put us in a bind with the people who come to us for service, asking us to do the land use when that's not what, not only do we not want to do it, we're not really equipped to do it because we're not a planning agency. And if somebody took us to court, who knows what a judge would do with it, and what a nightmarish outcome that would be for the applicants, for us, and no good at all. So because we got big issues like that addressed, we were then able to turn our attention to a lot of the smaller details that we had been really wanting to talk about all this time.
Okay, and then so that, just to make sure that I'm clear on this, when I started reading this, starting at the very beginning, this W19A, most of this stuff in here is not what we're really talking about. We're only talking about the stuff on the last 2 pages.
No.
Well, the last 2 pages, which is the resolution, is going to adopt the public work, going to adopt the public works plan.
It
So-
adopts 19A.
So everything that says 19A, which is the actual plan, there's some attachments that got in there that don't belong in there.
Well, as noted earlier,
37 pages.
18A is irrelevant, so 19A is the one you're
So it's
looking at.
37 pages.
Yeah.
I wanted the comment pages in there as well. We have some.
For our information.
Exactly, for your information, I have some comments received that the Coastal Commission received that I wanted to be in there. And,
There are 37
so
pages.
37 pages to this public works plan.
Okay?
And
That's what
it
you're-
begins with the second page.
Okay, so then does that in turn then obligate us towards constructing the additional well, the additional storage for Alta Vista? Does it obligate us to go forth with an airport wells treatment facility?
It doesn't obligate us, it is a permit. It
It
allows us to do that. It
Okay.
allows construction.
Okay,
And
but it does not mandate that has to be done?
Right, it's been approved but not mandated.
Okay,
The mandates that are in here are things like annual detailed reporting to the commission about water production and water sales, those kind of things.
okay. So that, for instance, that W18A is just,
that,
means nothing.
Disregard that.
take it out. Disregard it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, Dwight?
No, I had a whole bunch of questions, but they got all answered, and I want to compliment you guys. I think you did, this is excellent work. I think the challenge that from my read on it is the working with the county to make sure some of those mandates are adjusted over time, but you guys know that, so good work.
That's it?
Well,
Well,
this is a community result, and it's,
Well,
For-
guys was plural.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but it's this has been so much, there have been so many people involved. There have been the people all along who said, you guys just want to come in here and stop everything, and they're like, no, we're working on this, and it's just a real pleasure to get to this point where the proof is in the tasting of the pudding. And so, with that, I would move the resolution next in order, resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District acknowledging receipt of resolutions of the Coastal Commission, California Coastal Commission, denying certification of Montara Water and Sanitary District Public Works Plan Amendment 2-06-006-A1 as submitted, and 2, certifying Montara Water and Sanitary District Public Works Plan Amendment 2-06-006-A1 as modified by the Commission, agreeing to modifications so stated, and authorizing and directing the general manager to implement the amended public works plan with said modifications.
And I second the motion.
comments. Okay, I want to make a comment, and that is, I have been working for this for, see, my son is 34 years. When we moved to Montara into a little teeny house and ended up with a kid and couldn't have a bathroom because of a sewer moratorium and a water moratorium. And I said, something's wrong here. And I knew it could be fixed. The community had the will, and it had leadership in the form of those folks who got us the water powers and in this board. And it's just amazing to think how long it has taken for this to happen, but that this community beat phenomenal odds And one of the comments from the Coastal Commission staff was about the exemplary water conservation that this district has been doing and that it has been doing to end the moratorium. And I think we owe a deep debt of gratitude to all of our water staff. Clemens, who was there before, Julian, who's there now, Chuck Little, a whole bunch of people, all of the crew who are out there at all times of the day and night fixing the leaks in the pipes, pulling off the rotten duct tape and actually putting in real pieces of pipe with clamps, and actually changing whole lengths of pipe at ungodly hours in miserable weather. We are blessed. I can't use any other word to say, and our crew, Judy and Joanne in the office, who deal so tactfully and competently and pleasantly with everybody who calls in. You don't want to say to somebody like Judy or Joanne, "No, I'm not going to save water." Judy has the most pleasant voice. You can't just say, "No." You know, you after you talk to her, you want to do what you can to help. And I think it really makes a difference. Clemens and George and Chuck as district managers, and then the board. The length of time that it has taken us to end this moratorium is really remarkably short. 10 years sounds like a long time since we took over the water system, but we had the whole local coastal program update going on, and the Coastal Commission essentially couldn't give us any kinds of approvals until that other one got through, because it all by state law has to coordinate and reflect each other. So it's been amazing. I know people want things to happen much more quickly, but government time makes glacial time look incredibly fast. And it even makes geologic time look a little speedy sometimes. So I'm just so proud of this entire district and this board and our staff and our consultants. As I said 2 weeks ago, our consultants have come up with solutions for many of the problems that this district was crippled with, that were cost effective, and very effective, and allowed us to get far more for our money than if we had gone with sort of the standard operating procedures of the huge engineering firms. So it's been a team effort, and we just have a fabulous team. I just am very pleased. So,
Can I make a comment?
Please.
I just wanted to add, just really briefly, that the reason why the moratorium was put in place is because Citizens Utilities and Cal-Am for 35 years or more refused to make repairs, refused to maintain the district, and to make any improvements. So the moratorium was enforced because those companies, for-profit companies, would not rebuild or maintain or improve the district. At that time, the adjacent water district was asked to help us, and they refused to give us any aid. So we had the people in this community had no choice but to do it ourselves. And the first step was to through Quentin Kopp, as you heard last meeting, get that special legislation through. The second step was to present to the community, which the resolution to approve the bond. And then the third step was to negotiate with Cal-Am and buy the district. And the final step has been, as the staff and the people have been doing, the workers have been doing, is to make the improvements that the other for-profit companies never would do for us. So the community we did it ourselves. No one would do it for us. No one would help us.
And we did it. All those in favor of passing resolution 1558?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries completely. Moving on to the next item, review and possible action concerning district strategic plan.
Okay, so, we, were essentially looking at this for quite some time, now, how to get a strategic plan, developed for the district. I think this actually transitions very nicely. We just see that we're really in a new era, and I think that we have to think about what it is that we want to do in the future and where this district should go in the future. Let's not forget, we're also a water, sewer, and sanitary services agency. So we have more than just the water powers. We invited two very reputable firms that made presentations. We sent out requests for proposals to a large number of firms, received essentially 3 proposals, and those 2 were very good. The prior board essentially said we want to withhold making a decision until we have the 2 new board members on board. So we're bringing this up tonight to see where this new composed board would like to go with the strategic plan. I feel very confident that we have the 2 best firms in California that we invited to make presentations, and I specifically didn't make a recommendation for one or the other because I think that both firms are very equipped to get us where we want to be. So the recommendation is to authorize the general manager to engage with either BHI Consulting or Rauch Consultants and to initiate the strategic planning process for the district as an introduction for a discussion for the board.
Okay, now somebody can make a motion and nominate one, or we can each we can somewhat do a straw poll by saying which one we like. Of course, the first question to discuss is whether we want to bring in a third and or a fourth consulting firm.
I want to double check to make sure that you guys are okay actually making a decision tonight. We had bandied about the possibility of delaying a decision until the new year, but you're here and we've got some good information. If you're okay with it, I'm happy to discuss. But if you want to wait till the next meeting, I'm happy to do that too.
I'm comfortable making a decision tonight, so.
And I think I am too. I do have one question, just, Clarence, just for my edification. Barber and Gonzalez, why were they eliminated?
They sent a one pager as a proposal back, and quite frankly, in talking to a lot of other agencies, I heard very good things about the 2, BHI and Rauch. I didn't hear anything about Barber and Gonzalez. So I wasn't happy with the proposal that they sent back.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Okay, let's just start. Bill.
In looking at it, both of those, I was an observer in the audience, but my feeling is that is it pronounced Rausch?
I pronounce it as if it would be a German name. I can't pronounce it differently, so you tell me.
Could you give us that pronunciation?
What was that?
What is the correct pronunciation?
Well, in German it would be Rauch, but I don't know, which means smoke, but I don't know how
Like
it
this is
pronounces
smoke?
only.
And BHI is mirrors, so.
I know, sounds afraid of.
Okay, so
Smoke and mirrors, okay.
that, even though it may be pronounced incorrect, I want to say Rausch. I just felt more comfortable the first one, BHI, seemed like he was just rifling through to try to make every single point. And I got the impression that Roush actually had done their homework and tailored their presentation more to our exact needs. And the fact that with Roush, you would have one of the principals completely involved in the whole process, if I understood things correctly. So that would be my preference.
So your preference is to make a decision tonight, number one, not interview anyone else, and for Ralph.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. In fact, my feelings, I don't know, who was the first gentleman? I forget the gentleman's name.
Brent Ives.
Brent, but his presentation was awful. And at least for me it was. I felt like I was at church and being, and I just felt I was being lectured to the entire time. And I don't know if that was just me, a bad night, or he was having a bad time. On the opposite end, I thought the presentation by the smoke company, the Roch company, I really liked him because I thought he engaged us and was actually had a connection, and I felt I could work very nicely with him. I would have a difficult time working with the first presenter,
Good, Brent.
based on what I heard that night.
Scott?
I have to remind myself that the meeting prior to Brent's presentation was, yes, and I think it put him off a little bit. I could work with either one. I came away favoring the second guy. No, see, here's the thing. I took 1 year of German, and I kind of think maybe I know how to pronounce it, so I would butcher it for sure. I think we could. In looking at their materials, reading through both proposals that we got, they both had done homework on us. They both spoke to a wide range of very specific issues that I know are important to the agency. I'm leaning towards the second one. Could be persuaded to go either way.
Yeah, the first presentation, he was kind of handicapped by previous discussion, but yeah, I think that I tend toward Roush also. I think that he did his homework. I could work with either one, but I would probably tend towards Roush.
I liked them both, recognizing the difficult circumstances that Brent was operating on. I talked to him later at a conference I went to, and he just said he'd never ever seen a meeting like that. That being said, I like the structure to Ralph's, whatever, Robert is his name.
Martin.
I like Martin's approach to the way the product is laid out. It makes it easy to follow, easy to track. It's something that is verifiable and quantifiable, and I think that's very important, particularly for initially getting this kind of thing started. I also like the fact that both of them have a strong insurance. They have a strong attitude of involving the public, and I received a couple phone calls this week asking us to make sure, and please put this out in when you're talking with what appears to be Martin, that we really do need to have more than adequate public outreach so that people in this community can have their needs and desires for the way this district goes. We are the only district, the only people elected by Montara and Moss Beach to serve solely the needs of the district for sewer and water and public health for Moss Beach and Montara, and no one else has to do that. And so I think it's a great responsibility that we bear to actually talk to our citizenry, our voters, our constituents, our ratepayers. There's so many different stakeholder groups involved here. And I think we need to be starting to write those down and starting to do an outreach program. One of the groups, Scott, that you were talking about earlier is the people who would use water for agriculture. I know a few people who are on the periphery of the urban area who have agricultural uses. One woman I know has 21 goats. She shears them every year, sells the fleece. It is, in fact, a commercial kind of operation. It's not high paying, but she's on our water system. And if she could get some kind of agricultural rate, for instance, for her water, she would be so thrilled to death. And there are other people, there are, if you've been reading in the Bay Area for off and on for years, people who do small commercial gardens who will supply 1 or 2 restaurants, for instance. And those are the kinds of things that can happen in the urban area and on our water system. And in fact, in the rural areas, we have some customers who are in the rural areas. They're historic customers. They've been on our water system for decades and decades. And one of them I know of, has a small garden that they sell the produce from. So these are the other kinds of people that we need to make sure that we are bringing to the table and talking to about what directions we should be going. So I would love to have a motion and
Can I,
a
just
second.
before we have a motion,
Sure.
I also have a suggestion. I would like to see, I'm in support of what we're all saying. I do think this is where the public interaction is going to be key. And my concern about his proposal is there's not enough in it for that to happen, given the budget presented to us. So what my vote is a yes, but with a request. And the request would be is they have him come back in January with just exactly what his presentations would be. Allow us to give recommendations, because we may want more back and forth, and if so, we may need to pay more for that. So my recommendation would be is vote for it, but ask him to be very specific as to the hearings he's proposing, and allow us the option to change it and maybe adjust the cost for that. So if we could do that, then I think that would make it a healthier process.
Yeah, and I strongly concur with that.
So my vote is based on that assumption.
Good, would you
Get
like to
point.
turn that into a motion?
You got it, there
So,
it is.
I'm gonna
Judy, would that be
It'll be
clear?
on the tape, yep.
Is that
I
clear?
wanna repeat so that I understand.
Let
I understand.
me
what-
repeat it, I was being somewhat flippant. So the request is I make a motion that we approve Mr. Ronch, or however it's pronounced, with the stipulation that he provides us the content of his hearings that he's going to present, and allow us to adapt it with the option that we may have to change the rate.
You're saying a specific structured outline of what his process would be.
Yes, exactly.
Plus, a new price tag might be associated with that, and the possibility to change certain sections of that. That's what I'm.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Lou,
I'll-
Sorry, Scott.
For discussion purposes, I'll second, with the understanding that we are also requiring he give us the correct pronunciation of his name.
I would agree with that too. Without the idea that we have to actually articulate it.
I didn't say anything about our obligation.
Lou and then Bill. And please, a yellow slip, each of you, thank you. It's for Judy.
Lou
She'll
Wall,
give you a
Montara. I thought his presentation, or Roush's presentation, was better than the other one, but the other one, of course, was working in a very awkward situation. But one of the things that Roush said or mentioned that I picked up on was that as a part of this, he was planning to do interviews with other agencies. And I thought, well, hey, that's great. This is a chance to get an unbiased interview with, say, CCWD or the Half Moon Bay to see how they view Montara and where they see Montara in the future. And so I thought that was a good thing, and that it should, be included in whatever final contract that you have, that they do include those interviews. That's it.
Bill?
Actually, I was pleased that they brought up the fact that it needed more public outreach, but in the rewording of the amended resolution, you left out that specific phrase that there'd be a focus on more public outreach. I know it gives you the right to amend the whole thing, but I just want to stress it again, as I've said at every meeting, that you need to include that. Thanks.
So implicit in the motion, which if you want to state it more explicitly, would probably be good.
Yeah, I think the implicit in the motion is both public input and what the first comment was made is actually getting feedback from other entities that we work with, so it's inclusive of both. I think the inclusiveness is making sure we have time to get the feedback from all that's involved.
And is the seconder concur?
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to new business, review and possible action concerning appointment of board officers and committee assignments for 2014.
Well, we have a list of the current assignments. It's structured in first the board of director appointments, then the agency representatives, standing committees, and ad hoc committees. And everyone can see who is currently serving in what function. And well, the rest, I think, is up to you folks how to decide how to designate the committee assignments.
Are we doing the committee first?
Typically we
Oh,
have.
okay, that's fine.
It kind of helps people to decide how much more work they can take on, since the committees do a lot of work around here.
Okay.
I would suggest that Sam stay the same, but with Chris not here, I would wonder if Bill or Dwight would like to be the second alternate. We have a lot of alternates, just in case, just to make sure that we always are represented there.
Can I make a request before we go any further? I would help me a lot to have someone of you, any of you, to go through the list of these and actually talk about what has historically been the time commitments of these groups. And because my guess is some of these are more time consuming than others. Like,
That's a good observation. Let me start with Sam.
Can I add one more to that? And actually define what that position entails? Not just the time commitment, but what are the responsibilities that?
So, Sam, the Sewer Authority Midcoast side, we get 2 seats on SAM, as does Granada and Half Moon Bay. Our seats get 1 vote each, as does Granada, and Half Moon Bay gets 2 votes per seat. We have regular monthly meetings. We almost always meet at least once a month. We do have the occasional 2 or 3 meetings in a month if we have difficult situations to get through, such as perhaps closed sessions for litigation or personnel matters, or open sessions for budget. And budget has been the one that has called us in more than any other item. We also have committees at SAM. Right now, for example, I'm serving on the committee that is working to bring in candidates for the general manager position. That right now is, well, each SAM meeting tends to run anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. There's preparation time. The board packets get distributed on the Thursday before. The meetings are on the 4th Monday of every month, I believe. I rely on my calendar, it tells me. And then there's, that's the bulk of the work. Preparation for meetings. Sometimes there are extra things. For example, Jim just went on a tour of the plant and pump stations. So, carve out a morning for those kind of activities. the occasional ribbon cutting. We had a really good one last year. That was a several-hour commitment. That's pretty much. I think that's pretty much the picture for Sam.
Okay.
CSDA, Catherine?
CSDA meets quarterly. It's the San Mateo County CSDA.
Stands for
San Mateo County
Special District
Special
Association.
District Association. There is also the CSDA, which is the California Special District Association. We are a member of both, and they are separate memberships. This one is, so you'll be getting a newsletter from CSDA. You can go online to their website. You can get a lot of information from them. And they are located in Sacramento. They look after,
There's your first CSDA
Oh,
mail.
gosh,
they look after the, oh, there's no more. Okay, they look after the interests of special districts. Typically, the state and local cities and counties look at us as a pot of money that could go into their general fund. And if special districts were taken over. I think it was the year 2000, there was a state study done, and they hated to admit it, but special districts do a better job attending to what they need to attend to in terms of water, health, sewers, cemetery districts, fire districts, all of the different kinds of special districts than counties and cities do, because we have a body of state law that mandates much of what we do, and we also can't spend our money on anything else but what we're supposed to. The San Mateo County CSDA meets, or SDA meets quarterly, and it is all of the special districts in the county are eligible to be members. Not all are, and very few actually attend the meetings. One of the more important functions for the San Mateo County Special Districts Association is that we select the Special District Association member for LAFCO, the Local Area Formation Commission, which determines the boundaries and jurisdictions of cities and special districts in the county. It doesn't take a ton of time. It's just something you've sort of got to pay attention to, because often the state agency will ask a district to write a letter in support or in opposition of some legislation. Those letters make a huge difference to whether these things pass. And there have been some efforts recently to, at the state level, to come after some of the special district association, or the special districts. So it's an important job. It doesn't take a ton of time. ACWA is the Association of California Water Agencies. I can't tell you how long it takes. Bob would go to a lot of meetings.
Well, Bob Potasic was elected to the board of Region 5 of the Association of California Water Agencies. I think that's one of the better acronyms that I've seen, ACWA. I like that. So that is why he spent some time there. I think there was at least 2 board meetings per year that he attended, and the board meetings are usually in association with the annual meeting. At least one of them is at the big annual meeting that is one year up here in Northern California, another year somewhere in Southern California. Now, to get the position that Bob Potasic held, you of course have to be elected, and I think there's someone needs to be proactive to take that path. I think it was very good to have a board member be active on ACWA, and I would recommend, I'm active in ACWA, I'm on the groundwater committee. And I would recommend that someone is actually participating in the Association of California Water Agencies, probably more through attending conferences and reading their material and following up. It's essentially a direct path to Sacramento and the legislature. So I think it's, if someone would be interested, we can, of course, get you on the board of Region 5 immediately. But I think some participation and how much time one would delegate is up to the individual.
So that leaves budget and finance, which needs 2 new members. One has typically been the treasurer. The other has been a board member. And personnel is typically 2 board members, no particular officer. Our ad hoc committees, we should discuss what we're going to be doing if we need them. No, thank you, Scott. Jumping down the
Hey, do you want me to run through those?
yeah, please.
Water in particular has, well, these are ad hoc committees, so they don't have regular meetings. They meet as needed. The standing committees are required to have noticed meetings according to the Brown Act. The Brown Act allows for ad hoc committees to not be noticed and not be open. We always have 2 members on these committees. So water has been, Catherine, I'll let you speak to this one about the particular issues on the water briefly, so we can get through the rest of them.
Okay. The water committee has been particularly interested in looking at water rates. And
Oh, that's right, this was mostly about, I believe this one came about because right around the time that we went to the tiered pricing.
And we
this
haven't-
one, and this one has particular interest for members of the public. For participation. Bill Kehoe has expressed a lot of interest in that one. Recycling and solid waste, this one has been most active during the periods of time when we are working with our waste hauler contract negotiations. Where we are in that process right now. I would,
If I
We
may
just signed the
interject with
contract.
The water committee, the rate committee is actually on last on the list.
oh, I'm
The
sorry.
water committee, first of all, it was formed before my time. It's the first one on the list. And what I could gather and the way we've been using it in the past, it was essentially for issues, let's say, like new source developments, things like that.
Drilling wells.
So drilling wells, strategizing on you know, how to approach new sources.
there's been a little bit, because of the Public Works plan, most of that work lately has been done in another committee on the second page, the Master Plan Update Groundwater Management Committee.
That's right.
The recycling solid waste, like I was saying, during times of contract negotiations with Recology, that's a very busy committee. I wouldn't expect that one to be very busy right at the moment. The web, as we're transitioning to bringing in someone to do most of that work for us, this will be hopefully mostly advisory. That generally takes me a few hours a month, but as we get someone to help out with that on a consulting basis, I anticipate that taking less time. Outreach, this takes many forms, and I'm sure we'll be discussing as we do the planning with the consultant, ways in which that committee might be busy. Legislative, from time to time, we have the opportunity to reach out to our legislators about legislation either that is being discussed or that we would like to have discussed. So this has involved trips to Sacramento, phone calls and meetings with local and state elected officials, and sometimes agency representatives, sometimes meetings with I'm thinking I'm drawing it blank on, Debbie works with
Oh,
the Conservancy.
Coastal Conservancy.
So agencies that may be involved in providing grant funding or may also be driving legislation. So a variety of things that come up. This is truly ad hoc, has not required much time except when there's been an issue that requires a lot of time. The Integrated Regional Water Master Plan, this has been Catherine and Bob. This has largely been working with CCWD.
We have been trying,
Right, I think that name is actually misleading.
Management.
I would change the name of this one to interagency collaboration.
Right, it started out as exploring an integrated regional water management plan. It was an initiative from this district at one time to get this done, and it turned into more a collaborative working group with Coastal County Water District.
right, it started out because there might have been some grant funding available from the state.
Grant funding's easier to get when you've got more than one agency.
And they wanted to see a more holistic look. This was at the same time the county was doing its regional water study.
And it was good because it opened up the discussion to many more things that we have continued to discuss. Newsletter, fairly obvious. There was a time where we were doing typically 2 a year. It's been a little while. I think it'd be good to pick that back up. Most of this work would be writing articles and doing the work to help shepherd it through getting produced. Staff has really, in recent years, been doing most of that work. But it's something I'd like to see revitalized. The wireless lease we have on our property. We have 2 communication poles
That pay.
that have 4 tenants. 3 of the tenants pay. Those arrangements have been negotiated with the committee and staff with companies that want space on those poles. We've done things. The garage that's off to the side of the building actually houses a bunch of the telecommunications equipment that drives what happens on those antennas. A 4th tenant is the County Office of Emergency Services, and we provide facilities here that make up part of the emergency services radio relay for times of emergency when landlines go down.
And double slide.
So we have, as part of that, the OES, the Office of Emergency Services, has antennas shooting up to the slide and up to the top of Montara Mountain. The one up to the top of Montara Mountain helps complete a loop around the peninsula.
They have an additional antenna on the tank, Alta Vista tank.
That's right. So as part of that, we get to participate in that digital trunk, and that provides us some emergency communication if we need it. Billing, this is one that Chris and I did not do a whole lot with this one. We had a couple of open questions that I think I answered pretty quickly. I don't know, I don't perceive a need for this one anymore, although these are the kind of things that we can spin up as we need when we feel we have some questions or issues to work through. Recycled water policy, Catherine and I have been working on this one for 10 years. In particular with the efforts that we've driven at SAM. That's a long story, and I want to spend more time on that when we have some time. But we've put in a lot of effort to move forward on recycled water. When the economy tanked was right about the time that we had finished up a pilot program and had the golf course and Nurserymen's Exchange participate in that pilot program to see. They had hopes of being able to use the water that we had demonstrated we could produce at SAM. They fell into some hard financial times. Our applications for federal funding obviously fell onto some hard times because the federal government itself fell onto some hard times. So 2008, 2009, things pretty much dried up. Sorry for the pun, but during that time, we have continued to follow what's going on with technology, continuing to look for where and how we might use recycled water, and watching the prices of recycled water come down as the technology improves. Legislation continues to move forward on this as well, so I anticipate that sometime in the near future, we're going to have some additional opportunities. It is tough, I will tell you, the last time we looked at doing the major thing, which would be get water down to the golf courses at Ocean Colony, we were talking about a multi-million-dollar project, probably $6 million at the most optimistic. And we were hoping to get a substantial portion of that from the federal government and produce water at a rate that the golf courses and perhaps nurturements could afford. See, they have alternate sources of water, so that's if we can't give them something better at a competitive price, then there's no purpose in making it, because they would just go to, their businesses, they're going to go to maybe something they prefer less but costs a lot less.
Something they can afford.
Right. So I spoke at length with the business leadership at both Nurturements and Ocean Colony partners, and we all very much wanted to make it work. I'm looking forward to getting the economy to where we might be able to take another run at that.
And the other side is package treatment plants, which would allow us to do recycled water within our own district, on our own district land, are coming down in price. And it might allow us to be able to do groundwater recharge and protect our groundwater against saltwater intrusion if we felt that was a growing threat. Or to allow us to take greater extraction out of some of our more inland wells by putting more water into the aquifer somewhere.
So to your question about the kind of time commitment, recycled water policy has not taken a whole lot of time recently. It's been more tracking legislation and the developments in technology and what changes on the pricing. As we consider kicking this back up, it'll take more time. But that's at the time that I was really driving this, I was putting in several hours a week. The master plan update and groundwater management, that committee has been doing all the work with staff and consultants on the PWP in particular.
Sure.
And the amount of time that should take at this point should be greatly reduced, for which I think we're all grateful. There's still things to do as we execute on the master plan to help staff and consultants work through that. This one, as with all these committees, the committee is a good place to hash through in an informal environment, hash through a bunch of issues, try to form up some notion of a good plan, and then bring it back to the board for board discussion and usually ratification if we've done a good job. If we haven't done a good job, then massive alterations and going back to the drawing board. Big Wave, as the Big Wave developers bring plans forward, this group has both met with the Big Wave developers.
I think.
Oh.
You went to get you some. You need to get you some water.
Yeah, Kevin, sorry.
Sorry about that.
We've all had. So Big Wave, we've met. The committee has met with the developers and with interested members of the community, and also has met with staff, especially on matters that involve negotiation and possibly litigation, depending on how that's all gone. As Big Wave takes another run at it with their modified plan, this will take some time. Parks Powers, this was established many years ago, and I don't know if the committee's met in recent years.
We haven't met in recent years, but with what Granada is doing, their approval at LAFCO this last
They
week.
got approval. That was yesterday, I think.
That was the day before. But there, so people in Montara have been asking us if we would be willing to try and do that kind of thing in conjunction with our water powers, which is different from having parks powers granted by LAFCO. We have a number of locations, for instance, the 11 acres up by the Alta Vista well, where the Coastal Commission actually ordered us to keep a trail open for public use. And we also have sites where we have wells and tanks where public could make use of those facilities for limited recreation. There's one at the top in Moss Beach. Buena Vista?
Yeah, it's up above, it's the street right up above.
Linda Vista, Loma Vista.
That's the one.
As you can tell, I'm gonna jump in. As you can tell, Catherine is so passionate about this that she's really wants to talk about this, even when it's really hard to talk. So with what GSD is doing, that makes it timely. GSD we've had a very good relationship with for many years, and have looked at, we have talked about whether or not there's any way to work together on this kind of thing. We have our own facilities. We already have the trail on our property, which is, in sufficiently active use that the commission ordered us to keep it open when we do the tank. There's a lot of places where, as an agency that has the powers of a county water district, we've got the right and ability to use the watersheds for not only watershed purposes, but also for providing recreation where it fits with the rest of our purposes. It allowed us to consider, for example, how we might help out with Moss Beach Park. One of the things we definitely want to do as the county starts driving on getting Moss Beach Park under their umbrella, there are things that we as an agency with providing water can do to help move that along more quickly. And so there's going to be plenty of opportunity for this committee to get busy soon. And then on the rate study, I believe that we need to pick this up and get going with this. We had some real difficulties getting this going during the time when Paul Berkovic was so ill. And in the intervening time, we've had other issues that have been more front burnered. But this one, I think, we have a member of the public who has a desire to speak on this issue right now.
It's Bill.
If it's okay, Bill, if you...
Bill, please.
Sure.
I'll be quick. Not to, Scott kind of had it right. I do show up at the meetings here, and I do always like to see that all ad hoc committee meetings are open to the public, and ideally would have public membership. I base that on actually one of the pieces of the Mid-Coast Community Council that I was always pushing for, is that I believe community participation at all levels is important, not only because you get a better idea of what the community is looking for, but you get people actively involved that then do other things, like offload some of your workload. Maybe they have special expertise that can augment what you're trying to do. And the real good reason is it's good for recruiting new people as you age in your positions. So, not that any of you are getting close, but it's something that I think all the agencies out here on the coast side really need to be more aware of, is that I think that's the basic point of all outreach, is get them in early, get them addicted, make them do some work. Thank you.
You're talking about me, right? Because that's exactly what Chris did with me. Tricked me into volunteering, and now what?
Tricked you into volunteering.
Well, I did, and I volunteered for over a year before there was even an opening that came up, and I didn't get that appointment. So I kept on volunteering. And, it did work. It got me hooked. No question about it.
Thank you. So generally, we have people who volunteer for various committees, other people who are hornswoggled into sitting on them. To say Sam is at an interesting position right now, I would suggest that we keep the appointments the same, except add one of you guys as the third alternate. We are the only board in all the years I've been attending SAM meetings where it's often the case that there are 2 of our board members sitting at SAM voting and 3 of our board members in the audience watching things going on.
And you are welcome to attend, and any board member is welcome to attend and be a member of the audience at SAM. There was some confusion about that about 10 years ago, and we long since hashed that out. So
With
just so you
Dave
know, if you haven't sat in enough board meetings, even if you're not on the SAM board, you're welcome to come and be present and even speak at the podium. It's since that had been a point of confusion before, I definitely wanted to call that out. That's just not a problem at all.
Now, as far as CSDA, I've been the appointed member, and frankly, when there are meetings, the entire board can attend. I mean, it's as many members as sit on this board can attend, staff can attend. It's important for us to know what's going on among special districts in the county, to hear what's going on in their districts as well.
And not only can we, many times, there have been several of us there.
Yes.
But it's good to have the one representative who's there on a regular basis, and when it comes time to a vote, one person gets to vote.
Only one vote, the designated member.
So Catherine's been steadfast in this, and I'd be happy to see her continue that.
I'd be happy to continue it. So the meetings are in Redwood City, I forgot to mention that.
Let me just throw up a thought here, and I do appreciate the idea of having stability in these groups. I also think that a vibrant board should circulate the membership as well. And in due respect to both Jim and Scott, I think both of you done an excellent job with Sam, but I would recommend that you consider one of us as part of that. And going through the rest of it as well, I really think for the health of this group, we should be rotating. When I was on the school board, we had a person who was board chair for 7 years, which I did not think it did that group well. And when we started integrating it, it really, it just incorporates the governance in a way that I think is healthy. So I personally would like to see the SAM group opened up to one of us, just from the spirit of just, it has nothing to do with what you guys have done, because I think your work has been outstanding. But I do think it will enhance the health of the group to have us kind of take these job responsibilities on. So I don't personally have a need to be at SAM, but I think just having that different flavor, I think would be
Well,
I'd like to respond.
Let me say, I don't disagree with that, but I think you should have some experience and have attended some meetings before that.
And this is how I want to respond to it. I want you to be ready and prepared to do that, and I would have almost exactly the same response. Attend, learn about what's going on. Sam is a difficult agency, and we have, Jim and I in particular of late, have worked very hard to help Sam get to where it's functioning very well again. It has been very difficult, and this isn't news to anybody. It's been very difficult when Half Moon Bay rotates in people, and there's this whole big giant learning curve. And we do what we can to help people come up to speed quickly, but it really makes the job at the SAM table difficult because we have 3 separate agencies all at one table. And unlike 3 separate board members with all their different interests, 3 separate agencies is a whole order of magnitude more complex in terms of what the interests of the agencies are, and even about whether the individual board members are able to express the interests of their agencies clearly enough so that the other agencies at the table can find a way to work with that. So we've worked very hard to get to where we are now communicating well with the other members, especially at Half Moon Bay. We've got a very congenial arrangement with them. We have some very big things to do right now, and I want more people able to stand in and do that, but I'm going to tell you, I really think this is something where it takes a lot of homework to get to where you're ready to come in and do that. I have been working very hard to gently persuade our friends at Half Moon Bay to do the homework it takes to be able to come to the meetings and be ready to participate and understand the nature of the issues that we're dealing with. And some of those are very complex. In particular, the Joint Powers Authority agreement is the legal contract that binds us all together. And there have been contentious issues that really didn't need to be contentious at all, but came out of a need to learn a lot about what's in that agreement and why it's in that agreement. And we have at SAM one of the attorneys who drafted that agreement. The other was former District Attorney Jim Fox. We have expertise here as well, and in our council. So this one is, we're at a critical juncture. I would invite you to come and observe and participate and get prepared to join in with this.
Yeah,
This is not one where I would advocate, because I have not advocated it for other boards, I wouldn't advocate it for us either, to have someone come in and come up to speed on the job. I was here, how many years was I here before I was even considered for a position on SAM?
Quite a few,
So-
and I've been routinely, over my entire tenure on this board, attending SAM board meetings, and I have yet to serve as a SAM board member. I think there's a lot to learn, a lot of time commitments, and a lot of interesting politics that goes on there. And before you sit on that board, you need to know the nuances of what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really want every member of this board to get educated and comfortable with. And you will find, if you haven't seen it already, you will find that we come back from SAM and we share a whole lot of information about what's going on there, because we want everyone to know. And want this to be participatory, and when we go to those meetings, we want to know that we're speaking with an understanding of our board's interests, because we're there to represent this board.
It took me years to get on that board. And right now we have this, we're doing it right in the middle of this important thing, which is prioritizing the CIPs, the capital improvement projects. And that's, hopefully we're not in the middle of it, but we're getting close to it. It's really critical. It's a critical
And there's an
thing for us.
interim manager. The full-time manager who had been there for quite a few years left. So there's an interim manager, and there's some very interesting, she's making some interesting choices that if you don't have experience, you would not appreciate the implications of such.
Well, I get the experience for it, but I have to say, to take a little contrary opinion, there are two folks, and the consistency comes with having someone experienced in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the other part of it is, I think, coming up to speed would be the requirement of anyone having to go there. I mean, there is a responsibility for that. But I'm a little nervous about, you need X amount of time to get into a governing role just by the very fact. I absolutely appreciate the fact that you certainly want to keep the continuity, and you want to keep everything you're doing and honor all that. I do need to remind this group, though, that just we're going to have to figure out how to bring in the new and work with the talent we have, and I don't want that missed. So I accept the fact that we should work out a third person as part of evolving into that group as part of the process, and as long as that is going and understanding, I think I could buy that, but I just don't.
I think this one, I think Sam is special. I think the rest of the committees you're going to see, I've kind of sketched in some of everywhere you see Bob and Chris, we've got an opportunity.
By definition, sure.
And many of these are like, obviously, I would love to see one of you on budget and finance. I want to see continuity on budget and finance too, because it'd be silly not for us to not avail ourselves of that, since someone here has that continuity.
Right.
Personnel, I love the job that Jim has done on personnel. I'd like to see him stay on that, but we've got an opening. I'm completely open to, this is a great place to come in and get some of the inside, really deep inside understanding of what makes the agency tick. So I think we've got many committees here where we can start to really involve you and develop that participation, where we get to benefit from what you've got, and you've got the opportunity then to get your hands dirty and get in here
I will also
and do
comment.
real work as part of this agency.
That
No one sits here without getting to do
All
some
of the
good work.
SAM agendas from the formation of SAM are online, all of their minutes are online, staff reports are online. Go for it.
And that's not just theoretical. Most of us have read most of that material, and that's not showing off or anything. That's because we've really had the need to dig into some of this stuff, and it really has mattered when Half Moon Bay says we're not going to pay for what happens on the intertie if you don't know what's in the JPA. If you don't know why that was in the JPA, you're going to lose on behalf of the agency. So these are the kind of things where reading the source documents, especially the minutes and the agreement itself, and talking to the attorneys who helped draft it, talking to those of us who've studied it and had to work it through year after year. I definitely want you to become expert as much as you can on these topics, because we're here to work for our community, and we need to be able to stand in good stead representing the interests of this community, because if we don't, members of other communities will have an undue sway.
If we were talking about 2 new people on the SAM board, the part about experience would be critical. Yeah. But if you have one existing member and one new member, that call it a mentor relationship, I don't see where that you would not be representing the best interests of the district by having one new person and one established person. The other thing is that the new person not only has the obligation to read all the documentation, but they may have a different perspective on how that, in reading that documentation, come to different conclusions and stuff like that. So having experience, but also having a new perspective on things is also valuable. And so what you're arguing is that this is highly technical, and that there really does not need to be a difference of perspective necessarily about how to go about it. So
Actually, let me jump in on that, because that's not what I'm arguing at all.
I didn't
Don't
hear
misunderstand
that
me.
either.
I welcome you and the perspective that you bring. Where we are right now is a very delicate situation, and be very clear that we have had in the past many 4-4 votes at SAM. This agency needs to be able to be on the same page with its 2 members, so that, because one vote going the way of the other 4 votes completely and utterly changes what happens at SAM.
mm-hmm.
I would also
and I
note,
will stand very confidently on the actions that we've taken in our votes, where we've had to split the vote. Haven't liked it. It's been very unpleasant, and it's part of why I'm so optimistic about where we are right now. But I believe you have plenty of opportunity, both at meetings, if you disagree with what's happening at SAM, to come up to the podium and say so as a member of the public, and at these meetings, where we're here at every meeting, and your perspective, your study, the contributions that you have to make about upcoming agendas or actions that have been already taken at SAM, there will be plenty of time for participation, and you'll be able to test whether or not we actually take in your view and work it into what happens at SAM. Coming up very soon will be the SAM CIP and the SAM budget for the year. And this agency, all 5 of us and our staff, will be working very hard, and we will have quite a voice together as a group, and whoever's on SAM will be tasked with representing this agency faithfully in the negotiations at SAM. There's plenty of opportunity to do learning and participation right now, even as a member of the public, anybody could have been doing that, can do it now. And we see, in fact, let me point to Lou Wall as an example. Here's someone who reads the agendas, reads the staff reports, and communicates to people like me constantly about his view of the situation and makes recommendations about what he thinks ought to be done. Now,
And attends the meetings routinely.
he does. the
He makes
SAM
those comments whether you ask him to or not.
That's true. So, these aren't empty words. But on this particular assignment, I do believe that there is work to be done to be prepared to sit in those seats.
My other comment, to tag on to this, is the SAM board members don't vote their own conscience. They vote the direction of this board. They are at the will of this board, and so you can't just do what you think is best on SAM. You have to represent the philosophy and the direction of this board. That's why we spend so much time on it, preparing people. Both at the board level and at our reports level, and working with the district manager and so on, because SAM is not 6 independent people voting their own ideas. They are 3 districts voting for their agency and district interests.
But Catherine, isn't that true of every elected official? You don't, it's not what you want to accomplish, what you want to do, it's that you're representing the interests of the constituency. So in every thing that you do, that should be the overriding concern, not what do I want to do, but what's in the best interest of the constituency.
Well, that's a great discussion to have over a bottle of wine or a pitcher of beer, but in this particular instance, there is so much at stake in this district's money and assets involved with SAM. It's not just a personal kind of debate, that some of these decisions can cost this district millions of dollars. And in fact, we have been very close to it. One case in point. Bob was sitting, that were you, as a matter of fact. He was on SAM. We had a spill and the potential for massive fines from the EPA. The EPA staff person mentioned in passing to the, I believe this is the correct order, that in the report or in passing to somebody that he thought we should put in a parallel force main, which would mean a very large force main from Princeton to the SAM plant that we would have paid. It would have cost about $16 million, and this was a few years ago. This district would have paid 20% of that in order to prevent any future spills. This district talked about it and came up with another idea. Chris actually, we had peer review on what to do about it, and this district led the way, put in a wet weather overflow tank here, and then the second step,
For 800,000.
for 800,000, was to put in the wet weather gravity flow tank for $2 million in,
Which was designed by our
which was designed by
engineer.
SRT.
SRT.
Bob wanted to go with the parallel force main. He was voting with Half Moon Bay. It would have left this district with huge sewer bills, because it has to, it's part of our annual operating cost is to pay our SAM bills. This board actually voted to remove Bob from the SAM position. And we substituted Jim because we were very concerned, not about anything theoretical, but about what it costs to live in this district. So I think, Bob was voting his independent choice. The other 4 members of the board wanted something that was just as effective and less costly.
So let me recommend something. Obviously, we have a bit of difference of opinion.
Well,
but
I
think-
recommend that we have a motion.
Well, we're on the same page on that, and I think the majority has made their views known. And so I think the real question between you and I is which one of us would like to be the alternate. So with the vote, let's do it that way and move this discussion along. So what's your pleasure on that?
Considering I know how much time you have available and how much time I have available, I would ask to be an alternate.
Okay, so that's what I would recommend for the motion.
Okay, so
Well, and I
Bill
want
for
to,
the
I want to
alternate.
stay as an alternate,
So Bill to replace Chris.
yes.
Okay. I'd like to see Catherine stay on CSDA and all the rest of us be alternates.
I think that's a great idea.
And, yeah. For Aqua, this one was interesting. This one takes a lot of time.
Actually, you know, that's, Clement, I have interest in that, so maybe we can get together on figuring that one out, but why don't you put my name down for that?
For budget and finance,
Should we postpone that? I wouldn't mind being on that, but let's see who treasurer is going to be.
so we'll come back to that one.
Let's come back to that one.
Personnel, I really want to see Jim stay.
I'd like to do personnel. Having my own businesses, I've done personnel, unless one of you guys wants it, it's not that big a deal to me.
Yeah, you know, I have interest in that too, Catherine, if you wouldn't mind.
Right.
Why don't we go that route,
Okay.
and Jim, you and I can work on that.
I suggest we put the water committee aside. We can always resurrect it if we need it.
Okay. So we'll knock off the water committee.
Wait, on all these ad hoc committees, can any of them be resurrected pretty much at a moment's notice?
Yes.
So that instead of having all of these beforehand, shouldn't it just really be on the basis of a defined need?
No, because there are times, some of these are ongoing, and we get calls from Clemens that when we need to do something, and we
So they're-
wouldn't want to wait for a board meeting.
They're not regularly scheduled or anything, that's why they're ad hoc, not standing. But for the ones where we should I believe we should dry dock the water. I'd do away with the water ad hoc committee. The others, like recycling
That
and
was
solid
bad
waste.
fun, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Recycling and solid waste, Catherine, you're on that one now.
I-
So you need to continue this one.
Oh, wait, going back to this, excuse me,
Mhm.
Scott, water, you say that this should be deleted at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
As it was constituted, that one hasn't met in a while. It can be resurrected, rehydrated at need.
I would suggest that Dwight and Bill go on the recycling and solid waste. We just signed a contract. You can read the contract, and
How long is that contract? I thought it was a year. Did you really extend it beyond a year?
no, it's
No, but the price,
Franchise.
franchise.
the franchise is much longer.
I wanna say 10 years.
Prop 218 that we went out was for 1 year, so.
Yeah, I knew something was a year.
Yeah, that's
We'll have to-
218. That's different. This is
We'll
the
have to look at the garbage prices this coming year.
Okay, yeah, I knew there was something that you were on the year.
Yeah.
So the franchise is 10 years, but the pricing is a year. Is that what you did?
yeah.
And this is definitely one where we've had expressed interest for public participation on this committee as
Yeah,
well.
and you get to work with Chris Porter, and I've been on that committee. It's a pretty exciting committee, actually.
How do you define exciting?
There's a lot going on.
There have been times
There's a lot
where
going
that
on.
committee has driven the audit of not one but two sets of books and helping them reconsider the structure of their business so that they would have a long-term viability to be able to serve in our district, because the alternative was a waste hauler that was much more expensive and
Not as
they're
responsible.
not as willing to come to our meetings and sit down and work with us. If you look at the relationship between us and Chris Porter, who's Recology's manager for this area, she's a vigorous advocate for the firm that she works for, but she has a very good working relationship with us, which has been tense at times because us doing those audits and saying, you know, we've actually torn this apart and have some hard observations to make. That was not easy.
Yeah.
So it's a very real committee.
Yeah, Recology also serves Granada.
And Granada piggybacks off of our contract by borrowing it almost word for word.
Yeah, they're gonna have to borrow it again.
We're looking to try to establish some kind of franchise fee with Granada for us doing all the heavy lifting.
So I would suggest you guys get on that. There are always things coming up about recycling that need to be, and solid waste that need to be handled. Sometimes you need to call about complaints or things, and so that's, it's a good place to start.
Let's put that off let's put this off for the time being.
Well, somebody's got to be on it.
Well, one is I don't think there should be both Dwight and myself. I think it should be one existing member and one of us new guys.
Well, Catherine, you're...
Well, I will stay on it then. Which one of you guys wants to join me?
I'll do it, Catherine.
Okay.
Okay.
Webb?
For purposes of the record, can I request that we acknowledge a consensus when we get to these points?
Okay, I tell you what, why don't we go through this and
Oh,
then
that's
we'll have a
fine.
vote on it?
Good, good.
You don't think shaking her head's in the right direction?
Well, what we normally do is we write them all down, and then we ask. We write them all down, we make a motion. And, we'll
Okay,
ratify
that's
that.
fine.
I mean, I think we're all doing okay.
I'm just confused, that's all.
So on Webb, I definitely have an interest in getting this transitioned into a consultant doing most of the work.
And
So
I have the same interest, so how about you and I?
All right.
Outreach, I'd like to stay on outreach.
I don't know that we'd be able to stop you.
Well, that's true. Let me get off the committee, then I'm free.
No. It's a way to harness
That
your
way I don't
energies.
have to represent my own, I can represent my own views instead of having to represent
This
those
is
of the
this is
district.
one where I have a strong interest in seeing Dwight or Bill participate on this.
Just the devil's advocate, is there any reason why you couldn't collapse outreach and legislative? I mean, I know they're not the same, but they certainly have a same, I mean, from an efficiency standpoint, I mean, they've got a lot of tentacles into each other's camp.
They're so different.
Well, they are, but they're not. I mean,
Part of it was the time commitment. It allowed people not to have to,
but how much time commitment are these really in?
it is at different points in time, more or less time, depending on what the demands are. And there was a time when both of those were taking quite a bit of time.
And separately, because so as we do outreach with, as we're anticipating community meetings, outreach committee gets very busy in those. You may be right. A little claim chowder opportunity here. So if we'll feel free to bring this back and point
Yeah,
out
I
if
was
you
just
were
trying to
right.
think of, I mean, the thing about these committees is that if one gets overwhelmed, you can always come back and reconstitute
No,
the members, so.
and we I mean,
that's
we
true.
could get too busy. I'm looking at outreach, and it's like, well, that used to be me and Catherine. And there was a time where it made more sense to have Gina involved. So outreach, Catherine, who else wants to pencil in?
I'll take that.
Okay.
I don't see Jim on any of these committees.
He's got a gift for laying low.
Yeah.
No, it's,
I'm on the
it's on the next
personnel
page. And personnel eats a lot of time. That one's actually taking us a lot. Legislative. Catherine's been our lead on the legislative outreach for quite a while. And knows folks in Sacramento, can walk down the hall and bump into people.
I do.
Yes.
As a
I would
matter
like to
of
see
fact.
Catherine there.
And I know the Coastal Commission staff in Sacramento, and
I mean, my vote would leave both of you on that one at this point in time. You're away.
All right, if you guys develop a strong interest, let us know and we can reconstitute later. The Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, this is actually, can we rename this one I think this one is very specifically CCWD. You may want to consider one for North Coast as well, but we have ongoing business issues with CCWD that I would like to see the naming reflect.
we don't have any aquifers or really anything overlapping or in common with North Coast.
Yeah.
So any kind of water plan for them, with them, makes no sense to
So
me.
let's make this the CCWD committee, and that opens it up to all manner of things that we're already discussing with them.
Sure.
Well then, why don't, I'll volunteer for this one along with one of you, Bill or Dwight. What's your pleasure on that, Bill?
Okay.
To give Catherine a break here.
Thank you.
Well, who,
Bill
which of you?
is- Bill.
Bill,
Yeah.
okay, okay, Bill.
You following us?
Newsletter.
I really think it's time that we do one. I'm willing to put some time into that.
What was that? Which one?
Newsletter. I'm willing to work on that.
No, we can all, we all can all make contributions.
Well, yeah, no,
It's-
this is more about cracking the whip and getting, you know, which really just means calling Clemens and saying, Clemens?
Look, Clemens, I wrote an article for the newsletter, and he goes,
Actually,
All
it's more Clemens calling us than cracking.
That's not.
That's what it really
Well,
is.
That's actually what. Wireless
Wait,
lease.
on the newsletter part, it seems to me in this day and age that a newsletter is defined by both content and how it's distributed.
Mhm.
And so that it would just be my preference that we give, whoever's on that committee gives, special emphasis on to how it's communicated in addition to the content. So in other words, like a flyer that goes along with the bill or something is one way of doing it.
Mhm.
But the other one is as part of the website, as part of the potentially email blast, stuff like that. I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that a paper copy newsletter is not necessarily the most appropriate in this day and age. May not be the only way to do that.
It's not the only way to do it. We've done some using of content in multiple ways. So anything that's been done for the newsletter has made it onto the website, and I've long been looking for things that we could do as bill stuffers. But I'll tell you too that typically a bill is seen by one member of a household, and a newsletter actually may be seen by more. And
Also the number of people
same for
that
newsletter,
are
same
on.
for electronic.
There are a lot of people that don't look at their computers or are not online, even in our community. Getting a flyer with a bill is the most effective way. At this point, the website's fine too, but for a lot of families who may not have computers and really don't have access to those.
I think to your point,
So
all
sort of
the way.
a shotgun approach.
All the ways, yeah, and I want to see us do more events where it's more likely that someone's going to come up to us and start talking about what's on their mind.
Yeah.
So as we have, I'm looking forward to the public workshops as a way to say, hey, please come talk to us.
Yeah.
And when people get invited, they'll show up, and when they show up, they talk. This will be good. I'm looking forward to this as an outreach here. We've got a lot of good things to talk about, and it's a really good opportunity a good time for the public to come in and help shape. Wireless lease, I'd like to stay involved with that. Some of the contractual issues have been interesting. It doesn't come up very often, but it comes up typically when, well, I think there's a reason that Catherine and I are both on that right now, is because that has been tied into the master plan update, because some of the negotiations with the wireless folks have been about what might be possible at the new tanks that we're building as part of the PWP.
So that we could get rent from antenna placement on top of our tanks.
Right.
And get better phone service.
And
We're hoping.
We've had discussions with them about ways that we can get better signal for the people in our community.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense to me.
So this one doesn't meet real often. This is really as needed especially when somebody shows up. It's never the phone company itself. It's a company that specializes in doing cell placement. And those guys you never know if they're gonna call back the second time, because some of them, they come in, they talk a great story, and we never hear from them again, but it's because AT&T or somebody picked a different contract. Yeah. Some of them work on spec too. So.
A lot of times they just are shopping for sites and then they take them back.
Yeah. So leave this one, Catherine and Scott.
Let's leave that one.
Billing.
That's really more a function of integrating billing to electronic form for like paying on the website or being able to pay electronically, right?
And that's been done.
Yes, no, some of the billing questions had to do with, Chris and I were gonna do some analysis as part to feed into some of the rate analysis stuff, and to look at whether or not we couldn't change how we were doing. Every year we have to send the county the tax roll for the sewer service charges, and that comes off the water bills. And so Chris and I had bandied about 2 years ago, some ideas about how we might do something to simplify that process and get us earlier access to the data, so we weren't in such a mad rush to get things to the county at, I believe, like 1st of August.
Okay.
That's been, we did a few things. We haven't done anything in almost 2 years.
Why don't we cancel it?
Yeah, I have an interest in
Put it to
sooner or
bed.
later doing this, but I bet it comes back up, but when it does, we can reconstitute.
Recycled water, I suggest we retire that one for now too.
It'll come back up when we go back to recycled water at SAM.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can always do a committee
We'll
then.
jump in there.
Master plan update, we've got some things to see through.
Could we rename this from master plan to something more general?
Public
because it was
Works plan?
Public Works plan
PWP,
is,
the PWP committee.
Planning
Doesn't sound good.
committee.
Okay. Yeah.
Planning committee.
I'd like to stay involved with that. I think I have, unless either of you guys have a really good working knowledge of the LCP. And
I'm fine with you guys being involved, no issues with that.
Okay. Well, on this one in particular, this committee is very responsible for reporting back out to the full board and keeping everybody apprised. So as we go, if interests shift. Big Wave, here's a fun one.
Yeah, I have interest in that project.
So,
I'll do that with Dwight then.
okay. Catherine, you were getting pretty energized about the parks.
Well, I think we can, I think we should let that one retire. There's other things that we can be working on in the meantime.
Okay. Rate study, I suggest we keep this one going.
Okay, how's the rate study independent and different than just being on the finance committee?
Because
What?
the rate study talks about the rates, the water rates, sewer rates, whether they're steps.
It's a big enough issue.
It's a pretty,
It's a discrete issue.
it's a complicated and
The
highly
public-
dynamic issue.
The public has suggested some rather substantial changes. For example, if we keep tiers, where the tier cutoffs should be, how many tiers we should have, whether or not those tiers map out statistically to the distribution of the users in our system. Distribution by, say, for example, water usage, or by family size. So those are some of the issues. And think of it as a modeling problem, one where we're trying to model it and come up with the most equitable system for allocating a cost across our user base.
Well, and since we adopted the tier system that we've got right now, another system has come into more frequent use. Tanya, Clemens, what's it called? It's not base rate, it's a water budget.
Water budget. In this particular committee, so far, the treasurer was always a member.
Yep.
Just pointing that out.
Let's hold off on that one until we handle officers.
Yep.
So we've got two that we're holding off on. We've got, I've written down.
Okay, what we have is personnel is Dwight and Jim.
Do you want me to read it since you're
Thank you.
Okay. Personnel, Dwight and Jim. Recycling, solid waste, Catherine and Dwight. Web, Bill and Scott. Outreach, Catherine and Bill. Legislative, Scott and Catherine. CCWD, Jim and Bill. Newsletter, Catherine and Scott. Wireless lease, Catherine and Scott. Planning, Catherine and Scott. Big Wave, Catherine and Dwight. And rate study and budget and finance to be discussed momentarily.
And retiring the 3 committees.
1, 2, 3, 4 committees.
Four.
Parks, powers, recycled water, building, and water. So I would move as read for those committees.
I'll second those. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Opposed? Abstentions? Still carries. So, let's go into Board of Directors then.
The officers.
I'm sorry, the board, it says Board of Directors. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. Yeah, officers.
I'd like to, this is the president, going with the president first. I think Catherine needs a rest, literally. Today for sure, tonight for sure. So I'd like to nominate Scott. I think to address your arguments, I think that it's critical that we just continue on with the experience at this point, and keeping in mind that there are more years to come in the future. So I'd like to make that nomination for president.
I'll second that.
I just have a question. I don't think neither Bill or I have any interest in that role, so you don't have to worry about that discussion. But my question is, Jim, you are a president pro tem, so the way I've seen boards operate in the past, usually that's an evolutionary process to the role.
Yeah.
So my question is, what's going on over there, Guy?
It hasn't been here.
I'm asking the question. A
No,
little
it
bit of
hasn't
probe,
been.
so.
Well, let's see, that's a personal question, or is that?
Well, you can take whatever you wish. I'm just curious.
No,
I'm glad you asked that question, because it had to be asked.
The personal answer is that Scott works full-time too. I can't use that excuse anymore.
Well, we're waiting for the answer.
He's used that one before.
Yes.
I've used that one before.
To suggest that somehow all the rest of us were indigent or something. But
No, I choose not to be the president for this year, at least.
I think if he was interested, I would be advocating hard, and we've tried before, and he's not stepped up to that. But I will note that as pro tem, whenever he gets his hand on the gavel, the meetings tend to go about 4 times faster.
Yes.
So there seems to be this kind of rooting for someone to be ill or have to travel.
So my goal in life is to set new records for
He has. He's done it.
So my question is, why not the role? I mean, now you're into.
Actually, can I ask a more fundamental question? That all of these president pro tem, secretary pro tem, and treasurer, I haven't been able to determine what do these positions do.
Oh, well, these are defined in our ordinance. The president.
Okay, so I looked all the way through the administrative manual and I saw nothing about anything related to this.
Well, some of these are also defined in the code, the state code. The president works with the manager, the general manager, to set the agenda for the meetings, appoints the ad hoc committees.
I think the question were the pro tems, what I was confused about.
Oh, okay, well, but let me, I'll go through quickly.
Yeah.
And then to preside over the meetings and to see to the safety of everyone in the building. There's actually a reason for mentioning that. To run an orderly meeting, a safe meeting. The pro tem steps in when the president is not available. For example, if there's an urgent bathroom break needed, the pro tem can and regularly steps in as needed. We are human after all, but especially when the president's not available to be at the meeting. Some of the responsibilities of the pro tems are to be able to do things like sign documents in the absence or unavailability of someone. So for example, so someone's in the South Bay and we need something signed right now, the pro tem can step in to do that. So the principal job of the president pro tem is to step off when the president can't. The secretary signs everything, and I don't know how many things I've signed over the past few years, but secretary signs way more things than the president.
And frankly, it's a legal responsibility
Yep.
that for the district and for the secretary to confirm that these documents are correct.
So there's a lot of reading to make sure you know what you're signing, where it's just one of the responsibilities. Secretary pro tem, we pretty much fill that out to make sure we always have somebody who can come in and sign something. Treasurer, this is a very specific job, very responsible job, and overseeing what goes on with
Finances
our
of the
finances,
district.
leads the finance committee, works very closely with the general manager and our accountant.
It is on the rate committee.
Yeah. We don't have a treasurer pro tem because the treasurer doesn't have to sign things or run meetings or anything like that. So honestly, I would say that if I'm to move into a different slot, I would like to see one of the new guys step in as secretary. You get to see and touch a lot of documents. Honestly, the more you handle, the more you'll know. So I'd like to definitely see one of you guys in as secretary.
So are we going to vote on these offices individually or as a group?
It's
Generally as a group.
yeah.
Okay, so we got.
That's sort of by default.
Okay. So you got Scott as the president, that's.
And unless somebody wants to make a different motion, having somebody else as president.
My question was to Jim Manning more than anything else.
Okay. So who do we hear volunteering to be secretary?
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Jim makes a great pro tem president.
I think we ought to keep him. He has no political ambitions to be president.
Clear.
Well, I mean, I would be surprised to see that.
He's a bit of a conundrum, but it's part of why we love him. For secretary pro tem, I would propose Bill, Catherine, and Jim as the pro tem secretaries. The president can't be. I don't believe the president can serve as secretary as well.
You can't because you'd have to sign the same documents
So
twice.
basically, everybody else as secretary pro tem. That leaves treasurer. This one is where I would appeal to the need for continuity because of the big loss that we have from losing both Chris and Bob. So I would propose Catherine for this, business owner and very familiar with our finances. But it's a big job. Is that something you would do?
Yeah, I run a $12 million budget for an advertising cooperative. I run nonprofit budgets. So we have a good accountant. I don't think we'll need to replace the accountant. I think it's just a matter of getting our systems ironed out now.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that one of the things that came out of Chris's work with us was getting us into a place where we have a new arrangement, one that seems to be working out very well. I've seen staff working with the new accountant, and it seems like things have really, it was a bit rocky at first because we had a lot to do, but it seems like that's really gotten onto a pretty good footing.
So, can we have a motion for this slate of officers?
Okay, then you're gonna go back to the budget and finance committee, is that what you're gonna do?
We could do that, we could roll all of
We
that.
can roll
That's
that
when we
in.
roll all that together and just have one motion.
So that was budget and finance.
Right.
That would be me and someone.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'd like to be on that.
So Catherine and Bill, and then the rate study, Catherine and anybody really want it more than Bill?
If nobody else wants it, I'll take it. It's fun working with Bill Kehoe.
I can hardly wait.
Okay, so the rate committee is gonna be Jim?
Jim and
Jim and me.
Catherine. So to restate, rate study committee, Catherine and Jim, budget and finance, Catherine and Bill, President Scott, President Pro Tem Jim, Secretary Dwight, Secretary Pro Tem Bill, Catherine and Jim, and Treasurer Catherine. I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All those in favor? Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Moving right along here into the next item, which is to cancel the meeting for January 2nd, routinely done, since most of us don't want to come to a meeting on January 2nd.
Any strenuous objections? Is this an attempt to just undermine my...
Oh, I forgot, I'm sorry.
No, I don't take, the appointments don't go until next month. I'm kidding. My
It's
attempt at
my-
humor failed though.
it's
I'm
my-
sorry, it's almost 10 o'clock. It's my fault.
I know.
We talked about ad hoc committees and deleting some, but we never talked about adding any ad hoc committees. And it seems like to me that there's one ad hoc committee that, if I read that, the LAFCO report, right, it said number 7, GSD letter to Montara Water and Sanitary District requesting establishment of a joint consolidation committee. And
Have we received that letter?
I would love to talk about that at our next meeting.
I'd like to have a more in-depth
I'd like to have
discussion.
time to read that and get some background on that.
When-
That
when
sounds
was
like a
that?
very interesting
I
topic.
also don't know if this is actually the decision. This is in the staff report.
Yeah.
We don't know if this was actually, I don't know what the decision.
But I
was.
think having that
Actually-
agendized for the next meeting would be.
Yeah,
LAFCO,
definitely.
the next LAFCO meeting is, I think, mid-January, mid-February, where they're going to be finishing up this decision. I think we should see if that one stands or not.
Can we just, I know this is not quite on the agenda, but what was the, just quick summary of what happened on the 18th on the LAFCO?
I didn't get to attend.
Did anyone attend at all?
There's only one thing on the agenda, I was told, and that was GSDs.
Well, that was my question. What the
Yeah.
big
It was in the
decision.
paper. I think it was a 6-1 vote. The one who voted against it was Alifano from Half Moon Bay. And essentially what they're supporting is having Granada Sanitary District have an election on parks powers, but they wanted to put some particular conditions in, so it's on the next agenda.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
But it would be nice to be on the agenda for next
Yeah,
meeting.
definitely. Nobody's been a closer working partner with us for things of significance to about half of our budget than Granada, so. They're taking a different route than we have, so it's very interesting to see. Looking forward to it. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, hearing no objection, we're going to cancel the meeting on January 2nd.
Ooh,
You can be here. I can guarantee you I won't.
okay.
Anyone else going to be gone? We may have,
Well, let's let Bill, did you want to comment?
I just think that it's January 2nd is a very bad time, but it's also that there are a number of issues that really do need to be dealt with, and is it appropriate to cancel the meeting and go to the one in the latter part of January? That's all.
well, it's real tough for our staff to put together an agenda, given the holidays.
Okay. Okay.
So, let's talk, and make sure that we've got things on the agenda for the meeting that we do have in January.
Which would be the 16th.
So,
Yeah, okay.
since I'll be working with the clinics on.
Do you want to
setting the
consider
agenda,
a special meeting at a different date?
No. No, I really think that.
I think that the more important thing is what is on the agenda for that meeting.
Mhm.
And so that if it's appropriate, I would like to bring up some agenda items. One is that whole concept that LAFCO brought up about the GSD and letter to the Montara Water Sanitary District establishing a joint consolidation committee.
Mhm.
You know, and I'll just state where I'm coming from on this, is that doesn't matter what your position on it is, it should see the light of day and be discussed.
Yep. I think we
Okay.
all agree with that, actually.
Okay, and so, but there are two other things that I would like to put on the agenda. That would be a review and possible action concerning, I looked through the administrative policy manual, and there's two things that they're both really they're tied together that really caught my eye, is the Montara Water and Sanitary District Emergency Response Plan, and it's dated November 1st, 2003. And I think that that is something that needs to have be addressed and be updated right away, so that and then closely allied to that is another document called the Water Quality Emergency Notification Plan document, and that's dated the day before, October 30th, 2003. And I think both of those are woefully out of date, and that we need to address that
Good.
sooner rather than later.
Okay, can we, adequate time to prepare to have that on the agenda for?
We'll have it on the agenda, let's see in what form, but we'll have it up.
Okay. Just so you know, Bill, sometimes updating these plans takes time or money,
Mhm.
so.
And it may not be particularly necessary if the state statutes haven't changed.
So, but
Well, I looked at.
let's discuss it
Yeah,
and
there's emergency numbers to call, and those are people that I know aren't appropriate any longer,
Good.
so.
Thank you for checking that.
any other items that anyone else wants to have on the agenda? Okay.
Okay.
So we've got those three items. Clemens is, we'll do what we can to get those on.
I think the only thing we said we'd bring back is the discussion about the, regarding the strategic plan.
Yes.
Yes.
So, other than that.
Okay, I suggest we cancel the report section unless Jim really wants to do Sam.
No, there's nothing going on.
Let me mention for Sam that we're bringing in candidates for interviews first week in January. Another reason why I don't want another meeting that early in January. But I'm excited. We've got some pretty good looking candidates. I'll have them in, and we're going to put them through their paces.
First general manager.
Yes.
So let's adjourn the meeting. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays and Happy whatever, everybody.
And congratulations again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Cookies, woohoo!
Scott, do you want that?
I
No,
cannot carry them.
I've read so many of those.
Yeah.